Hello and welcome to another Stellarian Games video. In this episode, we are going to be building a desert tower. Let's get to the crafting table and see how it's done. Okay, first up, we're going to be measuring the sides of the tower out of 1/2 inch XPS foam. Cutting those out, and notice we only have 2 sides of the tower. We're going to rip those sides down in half, so we end up with about 1/4 inch left on each side. This will be a lot easier to work with on the tower later on. Taking each of those sides and just using some chain to texture the whole thing, making it have a kind of a stucco look. Next, we're going to be measuring out some of the openings on the sides of the tower. This is going to be the door, just cutting it out with an X-Acto knife. I'm going to save that door piece and use it for the actual door later on. Now I'm measuring out the top of the tower, the arch sections, measuring each of them out by hand instead of using a jig. Might have been faster to use a jig, but this worked fine too. Cutting each of those out with an X-Acto knife as well. And then hot gluing the sides of the tower all together. This will be a modular tower when it's done, but I figured I'd cut it all and glue it all together in one section of tower and then cut it apart later on. I'm just cutting the whole tower out on the hot wire cutter. It goes right through that hot glue without any issue. And now I have nice even sections for the modular tower. I'm measuring out the intersections that will go inside of the tower that will kind of lock the pieces together, leaving some of it exposed so that the towers will kind of stack and lock together. Then I'm slicing off a little bit along the edge so that it slides more easily into the next tower up, especially when it gets coated in paint. I didn't want to have any issues inserting the next section of the tower. Now I'm measuring out the top of the actual tower and doing a little bit of detailing work, slicing off a little bit of about 1 millimeter on the side, and then adding some detail measurements on here, and then cutting it with an X-Acto knife. Each of those little triangles, I'll just slice out a little bit of it, and it'll give a nice crown top to the tower. Texturing that with a chain as well, and then gluing that to the top section of the tower. Then I have a half ball of styrofoam and glued that on top as well. Now I'm working on the actual base of the tower. This is 1 inch XPS foam. Just kind of eyeballed where the door would be and drawing out where I want the steps to kind of wrap around the tower. Using an X-Acto knife to cut in each of those stairs, just kind of cutting down where those stairs would be, and then cutting all the rest of the material away. Then I'm using the circle jig as well and putting in some arches along the bottom edge of the tower. This will add just some nice visual appeal instead of just having a solid stone base. Then I'm coming along with the X-Acto knife and cutting in the brickwork, and then opening up each of those slices with a ballpoint pen to give it a little bit more round edge to the stone look. Coating this entire piece in this brickwork as it'll be seen when the tower gets lifted off for modular purposes. Now I'm coming along with a sculpting tool and pushing in on that base in all of the different corners all over the piece, and that'll give it a lot more interesting visual appeal when it's done. Textured it up with chain again, and then filling in the cracks with spackle. Using a little bit of a watered down finger to fill it into all of the cracks, and then let that dry. Once it's dry, then I come back and just lightly sand the spackles so that there aren't big clumps showing. Then I'm texturing that raised section, and that'll be for wood planking inside of each of the floors of the tower. Texturing it with a pencil, and then coming along with a mechanical pencil and putting in nail holes. Slicing the door a little bit thinner and texturing that as well with a pencil, giving it a nice wood grain texture. I'm cutting just a square of styrofoam, setting my guide real thin, and these will be textured up with wood with the pencil. These are going to be the trapdoors between the floors within the tower. Then cutting some thin strips of styrofoam, setting the guide a little bit wider again, and we're going to use this as brickwork in the next step. So just cutting individual bricks and then putting a course of bricks along the bottom edge of each of the sections of the tower. I thought this would give it a nice kind of visual appeal along the edge of the tower, breaking up just a smooth stucco surface. Now I textured up some cubes and making it look like exposed timbers out the side of the building. Just hot gluing those into place and texturing the ends of those as well. I'm using some cardstock and gluing on supports for the door and where the door handle would be attached as well. Once that's dry, I'm coming along with a tacky glue bottle and just putting a little tip of glue in place, and these are going to make it look like rivets when they dry. And then gluing on a small ring for the door handle. I'm slicing off a little bit of the styrofoam and exposing it so it's like flaking stucco from the building, and then texturing some stones or brickwork underneath that, and cover the entire building with a lot of these flaking sections and cracks throughout the whole thing. Now I'm going in and adding individual bricks along the door arch just to give that front a nice visual appeal as well. Coating the whole thing in the black paint and Mod Podge combination. This will harden up the whole surface and give it a nice smooth look as well for the stucco. The base coat is a dark brown paint. I'm going to coat all of the pieces in this dark brown. Then just wipe off a little bit of the paint and go right to the next color. This is a lighter tan color. Went especially heavy on the stonework, and then a little bit lighter dry brush for the stucco work. Then to a much lighter color, and this one I was careful not to get it into any of the brickwork exposed or up onto the wood platform either. Then I'm going in and adding some of that dark brown detailing work back to the exposed timbers. And then giving kind of a golden tan colored dry brush to the wood between the platforms. Painting the support structures for the door black, the banding, as well as the door handle. Then I came along and hit each of those rivets with a little bit of gold paint, as well as the door handle. Then I added some red along that crown work, again to give it a little bit more of a pop than just the tan colors. Using some grainy grading to add the bars or sections for the window, dry brushing those brown, and adding a little bit of clear plastic film to the back sides of those to make it look like there's glass behind it. Then hot gluing those into place behind the windows, and there's the final product. I think this turned out very well as a modular piece. Pretty much exactly how I imagined it. I had made a drawing of it initially, and it came out pretty much exactly how I wanted it.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and the like button down below. And while you're at it, you can check out some of the other videos that I have on the Stellarian Games channel. Thank you, and hope to see you again next time.